Hello and welcome to the second episode of the Mole in Hell Diablo 4 podcast. It is time. It is the second weekend of the Diablo 4 beta, and this will probably be the last beta before the game is coming out. Personally, not a big fan of that decision. It's still over 2 months, and I'm not even saying this as somebody who really likes Diablo 4. It's more like a, how to put it, it's more like in 2 months there's a lot to do, there's a lot to say about balance, and one of the most important things we are still kind of missing, and that's PvP. We will definitely talk a little bit more about PvP and what to expect in the next episode. But I just wanted to mention it briefly that PvP is a big part of the game. I know there are enough people out there who will say, well, I don't care for PvP. Why would I care about that? So they didn't test it. Yeah, what gives, right? But the thing is, if you're just looking at the talents and the masteries which are already in game, you realize very quickly, no, PvP is not an afterthought. Too many abilities are only really usable in PvP. They are complete skill sets. I would go so far to say will only really show what they can do in PvP. Like, we will talk a little bit about that when we are talking about the Druid. But the Druid had like all those earth abilities, earth/stone abilities, right? And all of them do massive more damage depending if the enemy is stunned, got pushed back, is slowed, or is immobilized, right? And then you would do massive amounts of damage. But the thing is, you don't have a choice. It's not like there is another stone/earth path for the druid where you could say, okay, you know what, I want to do earth/stone, but I don't want to do PvP. I don't really think it will work out. Another perfect example of this is the Sork, which you were seeing in the background. I'm playing, an Ice Sork, and I'm not really doing that much damage because the reality is a lot of the perks I'm having is freeze the enemy, slow the enemy. That's where you do more damage, right? And, well, there's a problem with this because boss enemies cannot be frozen. Boss enemies cannot be stunned. Well, besides of the one mechanic they have. But if you're using a stun ability on the boss, that will not stun the boss, right? And so the extra damage you would get is not there. And that really brings us to the balance, because there's a problem in all of this. There are definitely abilities where Blizzard thought about it. There are masteries in the game which clearly say, hey, you are doing much more damage to an enemy if you stun somebody. If it is a boss, you will permanently do 20% more damage or something like that, right? They have those abilities already in the game, but for a lot of abilities, they do not. And the same goes the other way around, right? Fire. Fire is a wonderful example. If you were going with a fire build, you will mostly use fire for PvE, but there are quite a bit of talents and abilities which you can choose to say, okay, I want to do PvP with that, and it will work, right? So it's this weird mix of, I don't know where Blizzard is right now, balance-wise, but it's not good. I hate to say that, but the balance is not good right now. Absolutely not. And yeah, this makes me a little bit worried about PvP, because I'm really curious about the PvP and how it will work. I love the PvP in Lost Ark, and I started more and more to focus on some PvP games when it comes to RPGs, right? Because I've find that when they're done well, they're a lot of fun. But they have to do the balance right. Now, let's talk about the second beta weekend. What did we get? Well, not much. Finally, people could play, which were not able to play last weekend. And we got 2 more classes. We got the Necromancer and we got the Druid. By the way, comprehensive class rundowns of the Druid and the Necromancer will be soon here available on the channel. So if you want to know more about those classes, because maybe you didn't have the time to play them, or you just want to see if your opinion is maybe the same as my opinion or not, you can do that, of course, with the upcoming class videos. But, oh boy, let's talk about them. Let's start with the Necromancer. Holy moly. What is this? You know, when I started to play the Sorc, I was like, yeah, this is pretty strong. And then I played the Necromancer, and I was just like, holy moly, this is OP. This is not even a little bit strong. This is absolutely OP. What the hell, man? Right. And yeah, the Necromancer is just... It doesn't... Like, there is clearly one build I would say is the strongest right now. It's like Corpse Explosion as a damage over time effect with another damage over time effect, and then you have like your minions doing the rest. It's just whoa, absolutely whoa. And it's kind of hilarious because they are offering you the ability to sacrifice your minions to get 5% more crit chance, and then you can skill it. That is what, 15% more crit chance or something like that. But even with that, it's not worth it. Like, even 15% crit chance is not worth it, that you don't have your skeleton mages anymore, you don't have your skeleton warriors anymore. It's just, they're too strong, they're doing too much damage, they survive for quite some time. And just in general, it's the Necromancer doesn't really have a weakness. There's also another thing the Necromancer is really good at, and that is tanking. I think the Necromancer is one of the dedicated tank classes in this game, and I know that sounds insane, but the Necromancer has a lot of abilities and talents which will make it possible for the Necro to just tank. And they have something a lot of other classes do not have, and that is, well, not life leech, but a lot of healing. They have a lot of possibilities to just heal themselves, and they have some life leech. They have some life leech. And it's just, whoa, that's crazy, right? Like the Necromancer is absolutely overpowered and just doesn't feel fair. Now, keep in mind, this is only till level 25. We don't know what the end game is bringing. We don't know what the Paragon is doing. I really hate to talk about the class balance right now because, well, release is still over 2 months out. Plus, we have never seen end game, and which is really unfortunate. Like, keep in mind, Blizzard decided to not show that to us. I hate to defend them by saying, hey, we haven't seen the end game, so why haven't we? Right. That should be the question. Why haven't we seen the end game? Yeah, because it's a demo. It's not a beta. It's a demo. It's a marketing demo. And they don't want to show us everything at once. I get that. But it's still, yeah. It's just tough to make a well-informed or have a well-informed opinion on the class balance when you're missing too much. Now, with that said, let's talk about the Druid here. What the absolute fluff. No, seriously. What is the Druid? You know, I talked about this last week. I felt sorry for the barb. And I was like, well, at least with level 13 to 15, the barb is like slowly turning it around because you need equipment, you need some weapons to make it work. But the barb is getting there. The druid? Shit, the druid is not going anywhere. I mean, no wonder. Like he's how do they say, thick nowadays. It's just, what the absolute heck. I was so disappointed by the druid. I was so disappointed for so many reasons. Let's start with one. Transformation. Werebear, werewolf. The first thing you think, yeah, one of the signature abilities and talents of the Diablo 2 druid. I loved to play that back in the day. This time, just shoot me. Just shoot me. That would be the best decision. It's just the problem. So what's the problem with it? Let me explain. In Diablo 2, you would transform into a werewolf. And then you will have your abilities you were using after you were transforming into a werewolf. And that's what you're doing. Right? But in Diablo 4, you're not really transforming anymore. It's an animation now of an attack. So you're getting close to the enemy. You use claw, and your character will transform into a werebear or will transform into a werewolf, will do the attack, and if you're not attacking for a few seconds, you are transforming back. So normally you would say, okay, so they just cut out the middleman, right? They cut out the button which you need to trigger to transform, and they just made it user-friendly. And if that would have been the case, I would have said, you know what? You're right. No, you're right. That's fair. The thing is, they did not. When you were transforming into the bear or the wolf, you're not getting anything. You're not getting any perks. You get nothing. Yes, there is a talent later on, which unfortunately comes very late, and I didn't have a chance to utilize it because it's after level 25, which would give you some stats when you were transforming. But till that point, you're getting nothing out of it, and it feels so weak. It feels so weak. Like everything else the druid has feels weak because there is no cohesion. Like I talked about the earth spells, right? You can be an earth caster, and you can use like stones like boulders and some other stone abilities, and they're basically all just good in PvP because they all rely on stunning someone or slowing something or something like that, right? CC. And you cannot CC bosses. And now the good thing is with like a lot of the storm abilities, it goes a little better. But even the tornado is like really hard because you cannot control the tornado and where the tornado goes. And like the druid just feels like a weaker Sorg. It feels nothing special. And it feels not strong. Now, keep in mind, unfortunately, the druid has a similar issue, like the barb has. You cannot do the class quest in the beta. It's another territory. You cannot go there. And it seems like doing your class quest and your unlocks is a pretty big deal for the druid. So maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I realize after the beta that indeed, when you can do the class quest, the druid will become actually pretty strong. But even then, that means the first 15 levels, you have to play a class which barely does any impact. And it's not even good as a tank. I'm sorry, but even as a tank, the werebear is not great. The Necro is much better. Damn, even the Barbarian is much better. Like, I'm sorry, the Werebear is not great right now. So, all in all, the Druid takes a long time to wind up. And even if it finally gets to the point where you get some legendaries, keep in mind that the legendaries were greatly increased for the Diablo 4 beta. So that will, of course, not happen with the release. So it would take much longer before you get anything useful. But the reality is, like, even with the legendaries and all the things you had, the Druid was not too great, to be honest. Really disappointed. So, yeah. The Druid will need a lot of love, I would say. Now, again, I can talk about endgame, but I mean, there cannot be really the option, right? To tell people, oh yeah, you just have to suffer through 20 levels while the Necromancer is just laughing through those levels, like literally just maniac laughing through the leveling phase, while the Druid is following some, I don't know, some punishment through reincantation they got last life or something like that. I cannot even explain it. It is ridiculous. And as I said before, the Druid, oof, I was really looking forward for the Druid, and I was really thinking about playing the Druid, but now, ugh, I will not get close to that thing. Maybe in PvP, the Druid will be like a killer, but in PvE, nah, not at all. So, what's left from the Diablo 4 beta weekends? An interesting game. Diablo 4 is an interesting game. I love the world design. I love the art style they're going for. The voice acting is fantastic. I love the lore, the story they're slowly building up. We will have another podcast down the line where we are talking a little bit about lore and all that, and how it started and how is it going and where were we at and what is going on here. But it felt really good. I finally finished the Act 1 story, the main story, which you can also see a little bit here in the video, so don't look too closely if you don't want to see what is happening in Act 1 and you haven't played the beta. But it's really good. It's really dark. Reminds me a lot of Warhammer and Warhammer 40k, that even if you achieve a victory, it's a victory which did cost you a lot. And again, there are already some characters they have introduced where you just go, huh, you are an interesting person thingy. Okay, I have a lot of questions. Right. They definitely managed that, and I'm really glad about that. But what remains is a good game. Only till early game I could play, which has a lot of live service moments, and I'm a bit afraid of where this might go. Thankfully, they have already made it very clear that nothing in the item shop will be buyable through money, which gives you any form of what is a SORM? Form of an advantage, and it would just be skins. But I can already see, like, for the necromancers, how, like, all the abilities and all the summons will be skins, and you can buy them. Like, there will be a lot in the item shop, which is a bit unfortunate. But also with the gameplay, like, all with the events, you're just doing the same events over and over again to farm currency you can then use for gambling to hopefully get something good out of it. You farm the same dungeon with the same boss they're using every third dungeon. There were, like, what was it, 14, 15 dungeons or something like that in the beta. And I think I fought 6, 7 different bosses, not counting the class dungeons or slash story dungeons. But it was very repetitive, which is a bit unfortunate. It's a good game. It's not a Diablo 3. I can say that for sure. I said it in the last podcast, but I can say it again. It's not a Diablo 3. It's a really good game. There's a lot of quality here. We have to see the end game. It's something I'm still worried about. And why am I worried about it? Even though I'm saying up till level 25, it's really good. Blizzard. I'm sorry to say this, but right now Blizzard doesn't have really a lot of buffer and a lot of trust coming from me when it comes to their games. Like, I have to see the full product to really make an assumption and to, like, get a feeling about what I'm playing here. But it felt good. One of the things I do not understand, this is why, by the way, why I said, like, I still have some smaller trust issues, is why the 2 classes didn't have their class quests. That's pretty unfair and doesn't really give you a feeling about the classes. Why was there no mount? It is clear that you should have the mount, and you can get the mount super early on, but because they restricted you to one area, there were too many moments where you were just walking from A to B, and it took you like 5 minutes of walking, and nothing happened in between. Right. Class variety is something I would love to see getting a little bit more explored. Like, as I said, it is tough to say when you are just level 25. But again, when I'm looking at the Necromancer and how many different variations of skills and specs I was able to utilize, and then I'm looking at something like, I don't know, the Barbarian, I go like, oh, well, that's the difference, right? Like, as I said, there's a lot of good here. There's a lot of good here, and there are a few things they have to iron out. But the good thing is, we are not talking about anything substantial which is broken. Keep in mind, when Diablo 3 came out, and I know a lot of people can't remember that, especially if you played on consoles, you had the luxury to come in with the expansion. But if you were a PC player, the game was fundamentally broken. Diablo 3 was a broken game. And it took them 1.5 years plus a whole expansion and to make it kind of good. This game is just good. It has issues, yeah, some smaller ones. It's not perfect, yeah. Balance, yeah. But there wasn't a single moment in this game where I was going, oh no, Blizzard! Right? I never had that. And that means a lot, man. That means like a lot. But I'm definitely looking forward to more Diablo 4. I'm really hoping they would do maybe another beta, or maybe we will see some PvP, because as I said, I'm pretty much in the belief that we need some balancing there, and I'm hoping we are getting that before the release. But knowing Blizzard, I think this is actually the last time we have seen Diablo 4 before it comes out in June, and then early access, so to speak, begins, and we have to wait till the game is fixed. Now, with that said, please don't forget to like and to subscribe to the channel if you want to see more Diablo 4 here on the channel. We are focusing a lot on that game. There will be some Starfield down the road, but those are basically the only 2 games we have really planned for this year here on the channel. Make also sure to check out my main channel, which is youtube.com/ChaosMoleFX or @ChaosMole, depending on what you would like to use. And we'd love to stream there. We have also guides, tips, and tricks for new games coming out, even though all the Diablo stuff will be here on the extra channel. And yeah, again, thank you so much for watching. If you have some thoughts on the Diablo 4 beta, let me know down below in the comments. And if you're watching this on YouTube, if you're listening to it on, let's say, Spotify or some other places, thank you again so much for listening, and make sure to check out my channels. I would appreciate that. With that said, stay safe, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.